Welcome to Marin Master Gardens. Each week, we walk through some of Marin's most beautiful gardens. What do you think of when you think of gardening? Mowing lawns? Pulling weeds? Raking leaves? Well, maybe, but there's more. Hi, I'm Nicole Walsh. Welcome to the show. We hope you'll join us each week as we meet designers, builders, and bay-friendly landscaping experts who will show you how to create your own Marin Master garden. Bees. They are essential to our gardens. Let's meet a master beekeeper with almost 50,000 bees and watch as he collects his annual honey harvest.
Bees are, in my opinion, one of the most fascinating creatures in the world. They are the only creatures in the world that produce food for man. Bees account for a third of the food that humans consume in the world. Without bees, we are in big problems. We have big problems as far as our food chain is concerned. I am fascinated by them, and as long as I am capable of getting up and lifting the boxes off and putting new frames in and extracting the honey, I will always be involved in them. They are the most disciplined, hard-working creatures in the world. Good morning. I'm Simon Boddington. I'm a hobby beekeeper in Santa Venetia, California. And this morning we're going to take some honey out of our hives. We have 5 hives, I think 3 of which we're going to work on. There are 3 boxes, as you see, on each hive, and the top box hopefully has honey in 3 of my hives. The only tools I have is a smoker, a metal tool called a hive tool, which is the tool that I take the beehive apart with. This tool here, a hive tool, is the most useful tool for a beekeeper. It does a lot of jobs. It's the combined hammer, screwdriver, paint scraper, awl, and yes, it's a totally universal tool, and I would be lost without it. I couldn't do any of this without it. I use burlap in the hives, in the smoker, because it's a natural product which creates a very dense smoke and is non-toxic. I started beekeeping in the valley here in 01, so that's 8 years. My father was a beekeeper in England, so that was in wartime England, and I was an observer, very much an observer and admirer of his technique, and it was a fascination to me. And when we came here, it was very obvious that this was an area, a garden, and the wildflowers in this area of the lagoon and China Camp was so conducive to beekeeping because of the huge extensive wildflowers. We have about 10,000 acres of wildlife refuge, and the China Camp State Park here, which is all bedecked in the most wonderful wildflowers, both salt water flowers and flowers that come right into the neighborhood here, the salvias and the lavenders and the many variations of the lagoon wildflower. Beehives always have a top on them, which keeps the weather out and keeps the bees in. This one's quite heavy, and so I have to be very careful lifting this thing off. It weighs about 40 pounds. We smoke them for the smoke actually discourages them and gets them, moves them back into the main hive, but the smoke also makes them a little sleepy, and that also is a good idea because that stops them getting too excited. It's a process which sometimes take a few minutes, sometimes takes an hour to clear all the bees out of a box here. We started off with one hive, and it was a question of going to the to the bee supplier who's in Fresno, California, and I bought the first boxes and went out to Vacaville, where there's a bee farm, and bought, I think, 3 or 4 pounds of bees. You buy bees by the pound, and you install them in your beehive. We bought the first 3 or 4 pounds of bees and 1 queen, and we had specific instructions for how to install the queen into the colony, and the whole thing was an experiment. I was absolutely fascinated by the fact that it was not only a fascinating early days of a hobby, but it was also it was successful. They took very readily to our hive here. I didn't quite know how to place hives properly, and of course I joined the Marin beekeepers, and that of course opened up a whole new world of beekeeping. And a few months later, my wife saw an advertisement in a Petaluma paper, I think it was, maybe it was the Marin IJ, a man who was retiring, and he wanted to pass on his bees, already boxed, and he brought over a pickup truck with, I think, 4 hives in it, and we set the hives up with a little of his help, and those 4 hives of his and 1 of mine was our beginning of our apiary. And we jumped really in at the deep end, and the advantages of this, one was that there was already a certain amount of honey built up in those hives, and 2, there was a sort of built-in confidence there, because I always had a telephone number I could call this wonderful old gentleman who helped me start things up. And I read a numerous amount of books. I wasn't on the internet then, but there was a lot of books in the library on the subject. And Marin beekeepers, as I said, were terrific. They were great help. Now each hive, as you notice, has got a name on it. The name might be Laurel Grove, it might be Mill Valley, it might have Ralph Barbieri or whatever. These are where I've collected the swarms in the springtime. One of the swarms was right here in my own garden, and it's the hive over here has got Rancho Gallinas on it. That's our own swarm, our own bees in our own beehive. There's no guarantees in beekeeping. Beekeeping is a precarious hobby. Bees are attacked and are subject to all sorts of infestations of mites, of red ants, of squirrels, mice, dogs, deer. The hives can be knocked over, and I have now, as you see, I've elevated my hives to keep a lot of those guys out of the way, but there's a whole army of critters out there which go after bees, apart from the weird symptoms which are coming across our bees right across the whole world today, this strange disappearance of bees. And of course the big manufacturers of pharmaceuticals like Bayer producing things called neurotoxins, which causes insects to lose their sense of direction. So you have this constant challenge of keeping the bees alive. You're never without pests, you're never without infestation of something. There is always some sort of mite, varroa mite or trachea mites, or ants or something. There's always something attacking the hives. Yellow jackets, for instance, this time of year are a real pest. And I am now going after yellow jacket nests in the whole neighborhood. If I find them, I eradicate them. Because they really are a pest, and they'll go after them because they're carnivores, and they go after the eggs. They go after the eggs themselves. But I feel that I don't want to expand my apiary bigger than it is. Frankly, there's enough work as it is, and I'm not in a commercial production. This is entirely something for our own good, and the benefits from the benefits from resistance from allergies in the spring especially really is noticeable for me, because I do get allergic to hay and pollen, and it does help. It doesn't cure it altogether, but it really helps those allergies. You know, the bees stick everything together with a thing called propolis. Propolis is a natural glue that they make. They're producing propolis, they produce beeswax, they produce honey, all vital to the whole process. Worker bees do all of those things. The drones merely look after the queen, feed her and mate with her. They're the lucky guys, are the drones. I'm going to be a drone when I come back in this world. You can see the bees here sitting here quite quietly eating their breakfast, which is honey, of course. And these guys are pretty quiet. These are made out of pine. They come in a kit form. They come in a box, and I have to put them all together, same as the beehives do. This is a frame of honey. You can see the bees are they're very attracted to it. They're very possessive. Beekeeping has been going on for 3,000 years in the Mediterranean, and honey has been taken out of tombs of the pharaohs, which is 2,000 years old and edible. A little crystalline, I might say. But honey is an amazing product. Bees make honey which is antibiotic, and in many third world countries you'll find that they use honey in surgery when they don't have the refinements of Western surgery. They will use honey to keep the wound clean, and I've many times used honey to put onto wounds like burns. They're excellent with burns. You can see the white capping that goes over the top to keep the honey inside. That white capping will be taken off when we start taking the honey today. They build their cells at a 5-degree angle so the honey stays inside that little cellular cavity. Our output was extremely good in our first 2 or 3 years. We went up to 140 pounds out of 5 hives one time. And I'm very happy if we can produce 60 or 80 pounds from 5 hives, which is what we need personally as in the family, and what I dole out to the neighbours in return. And that is 60 or 80 pounds in 1 year is not a lot in terms of the commercial production of beehives. Beehives can produce 60 or 80 pounds in 1 hive. So I'm not an aggressive beekeeper that's going after the numbers. If we can produce a good 50 or 60 pounds, which is what our needs and our family's needs, and of course I do like to give all our neighbours honey, because after all our bees do go steal the nectar and the pollen from their flowers. One of the most critical jobs a beekeeper has to know is how much honey he takes out of a hive. The hive is the sole food process, the whole food usage of bees is their honey. And if you take all the honey out at this time of year, come January or February, they'll be out of food, and they'll either leave or they'll just die off. They desperately need to have at least a third of what they have in the total resource of honey here. You have to leave at least a third in there for their use during the cold months, which could be December, January, February, and even March. Yes, it's best to get all the bees off of these frames, so when you're in the honey room you don't have a whole bunch of these critters running around and buzzing you. Yeah, we got a lot of honey here. The beeswax foundation that they build their cells on, and there is the completed honey area. They chose to do one side of this and not the other at all. They haven't even started on the other side. So this is one that I would not put through the extractor today. There's definitely a great advantage in going to our local group of marine beekeepers. We have a marvelous group who meet every first Tuesday of every month from October right the way through to the spring. And these meetings are extremely well attended. We have visitors from all over California. We have Professor Munson from Davis, who's probably the most knowledgeable beekeeper in Northern California. He comes regularly to give lectures to us, and those meetings are definitely the way for an early beekeeper to go. The bees love trailing rosemary, which is the flowering rosemary, the native one. They love lavender, both French and English lavender. They love catmint, which is sometimes called catnip here. They love the mallow, tree mallow, which we have half a dozen in the garden here. There is fruit blossoms. They love, whether it be apple or a cherry. Any flower, whether it be a wildflower or a horticultural product, is attractive to bees. With the exception of oleander here right behind us. I don't see a lot of bees in oleander. It's just a question of what the attraction is there, and the attraction for them, of course, is the nectar and the pollen, which they, in various equations of nectar, pollen, water, etc., they make their beeswax. But you'd need to be in an area of many hundreds of acres of lavender, for instance, to be able to have a pot of honey which you really could put lavender honey on. We don't have any concentration of flowers like that other than the wildflowers which surround us here. So our honey is truly wildflower.
It's an amalgam.
Right.
Yeah.
Put into the cooler here the ones that I'm actually going to extract, like this baby here. Yeah, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 6 frames I'll take. They forage up to 3 or 4 miles from their beehive apparently, which means they could forage from here to the freeway and back. Bees get a very bad rap. There's a collective noun, bees, which people associate with anything that flies and goes buzz buzz. Honeybees do not attack people unless they are really themselves attacked or trapped. And you can walk up to any of my hives and they'll fly in and around you, as they have done for me for years. Bees are associated with yellow jackets, wasps, hornets, and the result is that a lot of people, especially children, will immediately become scared when they hear the word bee. That's one of the reasons I have an open house here, to show children exactly what bees can do and how they behave. If you have any interest in beekeeping, I would say it would be a very good idea to come along to one of our meetings, meet the people. Come here to Rancho Gallinas and walk around with me, and I can show you the ups and downs, the ins and outs of beekeeping. And you can get beekeepers like myself to actually install a hive in your garden. If you have an area of flowers and you'd like to have bees in your garden, that can be done. There are people, and I'm one of them, when I have an overproduction of bees where I'm collecting swarms, as I do all over the county, I don't have the capacity to house them. So there are times when we can give away bees and you don't have to spend a lot of money at it. So do you want to come and see how honey is harvested? Come into my honey barn. Okay, now we're set up now. We've got the centrifuge ready. We have got the decapping knife here. There is quite a technique to this. It's not something you can do in the first day you have a knife. They're pollen, nectar, water. They all go to making these different colors. And I've had capping wax which is clear white, absolutely white, just as white as paper. And I've had other capping wax which is dark, dark, dark brown. And you'll see today, in the course of today, you'll see 2 or 3 or 4 different colors from the 3 or 4 hives that we're taking from in the centrifuge. Now I put this frame, when they've taken the caps off it, on one side, turn it around and put another one in on the other side to balance it out. Now the honey will sit in the frame until you get it spinning around fast enough, and then you turn them around and spin the other side out. These two frames have got very little honey in them, but we're doing them anyway, and then continue the process of spinning it out. This is a simple bottomless bucket which has a screen in the bottom, and this is the receptacle bucket. This is actually a filter. It's a crude paint filter which you can buy by the package. They're very inexpensive, and they're very effective. It's a very crude filter, and it just keeps out the foreign bodies, as I say, arms, wings, legs, and the odd bee body. Yeah. We let this baby go. There's not much in there, but it'll still come out of there, and you see that there's a certain amount of foreign bodies in there, and then you can hear it dripping down into the lower level. Now tell me what the first...
Good.
And there's it dripping through to the bottom level. Then we pour the honey out of here into the jars, and there is our homegrown honey. And it means we have honey again in the house. Isn't that good? I think that beekeeping is an extraordinary pastime. I think that everyone should, at least if they don't know much about beekeeping, they should maybe go into it a little bit, and if you have enough interest, come down and see what we're doing here. Come to the beekeepers' meetings and learn more, because we should all learn more. Our children should learn more, because we are in danger of losing bees. We're losing bees all over the world, and the more we can do to provide them with life, food, and an environment that's clean, the better. And it's a very, very gratifying hobby. On September 26th this year, in fact, the last Saturday of every September, every year, we have an open house here, which is called Bee Appreciation Day. And we've developed this now where we have 50 or 60 people come, and it's open from 10 o'clock in the morning. And I really let people wander around the garden and see what we're doing. I have some wonderful big blown up illustrations of bees. They can really see the difference between the queen bee, the worker bee, the drones, the eggs, the honeycomb, and a lot of photographs of us in the production of honey and the maintenance of the beehives. And the questions that especially the children ask are fascinating, and it's a lovely day. It's a lovely day, and anybody's welcome to come.
Wow, I bet you won't look at bees the same after that. Let's take a look at some other friends meeting in the garden.
I'm Sheila Mutter with Sustainable San Anselmo, and we've partnered with the Marin Open Garden Project to bring together local gardeners to exchange their excess produce. And today is our first exchange in San Anselmo. And we've had a number of gardeners bring some produce today, mostly from the Ropes and Harrington Community Gardens. And we'll meet weekly, starting on July 11th at Creek Park.
I'm David Fox. I'm also one of the people from Sustainable San Anselmo, working with Sheila here to set up the garden project. And I'm here with my wife, Annie, and we went through our garden this morning and got lots of herbs because most of our vegetables aren't quite ready yet. We're having a lot of fun trading with other people, and this is a great idea. We just saw the movie Food Inc., and this is a perfect response to that movie. Doing local gardening with other neighbors and friends. Starting on July 11th, 2009, we're moving to Creek Park in San Anselmo. We'll be there every morning from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. and I'd like to invite all of our neighbors in San Anselmo who have extra vegetables and fruit. Bring them here and trade with your neighbors, and you might end up with something which you wouldn't have normally.
We hope you have enjoyed this episode of Marin Master Gardens. Join us again next week as we explore another Marin Master Garden. If you know of a beautiful garden that you think deserves our attention, let us know. If you have questions or comments about this program, we want to hear from you.